Welcome to the Aegance Offscript Podcast, where we talk to industry leaders who share their stories, insights, and lessons unfiltered and unscripted. I'm your host, Lawrence, and today I'm thrilled to host Jamie Burt, the founder and CEO of Tapped. Now, Tapped is rethinking what a business card can be. They pair sleek physical smart cards with a dynamic digital profile platform called Omnia. So when you meet someone and tap, your full contact, social, links all pop up. There's no paper, there's no reprints. They're basically tackling the tension between hardware and software and building a bridge between physical presence and digital identity. Jamie, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very well said. That really is us in a nutshell. Maybe to extend one piece is simply that we focus on business cards, but there are a multitude of other products such as NFC stands, car stickers, banners, and things that kind of allow us to connect the digital and the physical. And our big mission really is to help people be as confident as they can in the most convenient way in this new digital era.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks for that further context. So when you step into your CEO's shoes, what is the vision that you carry for Tapped in the next 3 to 5 years? What does success look like for you?
For us, because our product is really focused on what they call critical mass, is the more people that have it, the better the ecosystem really works. So in that sense, for now, I'm kind of focusing on user base over profit right now. And for me, it is just really to try and get the product both digitally and physically in as many people and companies' hands as I possibly can.
And are there any parts of that vision that feel under threat or toughest to realize?
Bluntly put, competition does exist, as in any industry in a capitalistic society. And for me, it is that the challenges exist when I compete in the business card market, but I believe that Tapped's created a structure further than business cards themselves. And my plan to kind of break through that mold will be to kind of sell the host or the suite of goods that maybe make me a one of zero as opposed to just another one kind of in the ranks.
And how do you balance being a product leader, an operations lead, and a strategic thinker? How do you choose where to invest your time?
As a startup, the fires present themselves, and you tend to have to put out that fire as quick as you can. And there is always a priority that you can't get to at that given day or that given time horizon. But ultimately, you use your gut sense and you speak to your team and you speak to your mentors, and really what they share with you, you make your best educated decision and you run as hard as you can in that direction and make sure that you do complete that priority and execute as well as you possibly can.
And are there any decisions that you have delegated? And if not, which ones are you owning personally?
I own the kind of product vision as a whole. I'm not the technical lead per se. I've got a CTO, of which I'm very grateful and fond of. And also, I don't focus on my brand itself. I'm not necessarily a creative person. I have an engineering background, and I believe I can tell if it's a good color or not. But ultimately, I fundamentally am on the strategy and on the customer acquisition side. But from a brand perspective, no. And from a pure technical perspective, I've delegated those two tasks to two amazing people in my team.
And if we run with the idea of strategy, have there been any strategic pivots or product bets that you've made at Tapped, and what drove those choices?
Ultimately, it's the power of e-commerce. E-commerce is obviously relatively modern as things go across the horizon since the fourth industrial revolution. And the strategic shift really came about like 18 months ago or so, where the kind of knocking on doors boardroom approach to sales really has shifted in terms of something I kind of came across, which was that if you think about it, if you get 100,000 views, I mean, that's 2 stadium full of people to be able to view that. And, you just cannot knock on that many doors. And I feel that that's just been the strategic shift that has really yielded us decent cash flow to allow us to continue to grow.
You don't think you can reach out to 100,000 people?
At least not physically. You're going to have to leverage the digital world, I think, ultimately. And I mean, even if you speak, you're not in that. And I really kind of went deep into this personally, but like, if you think about how close you are to a person on their phone itself, like you literally write in their mind, if you know what I mean, as opposed to even on stage with the microphone. I feel that you can be a lot more so-called intimate and targeted with your customer, specifically with the whole algorithm, as they call it, the infamous algorithm, that you can target and be very specific and very unique to what you are trying to achieve, where, again, I feel in the physical world, it's not as simple. However, I will add that the larger deals I've made in my life have stemmed from physical interactions. People buy from people, not businesses, as they say. So that's where the bulk of my B2B sales has come from. But to keep the lights on and to keep, the salaries going, certainly e-commerce has been a massive eye-opener for me, at least personally.
Yeah, I mean, certainly a number of the marketing managers, heads of marketing that I've dealt with and spoken to in my career have always spoken about meeting your customer where they are. And nowadays that's on a tablet, a cell phone, through a computer. And if you are not doing that, you're missing out a large portion of potential business. But then, as you say, finding that balance between meeting them where they're at and then developing the face-to-face human engagement and the human relationship is key to closing deals. How are you bridging that balance?
Developing two SEAL teams, as I call them. I love the idea of a SEAL team where you kind of have the one guy, people that you can depend on when you say go right and I go left, that we know we're going to meet each other later down the line. And I know that you've done your job and I've done my job. And ultimately, I have specialists, those that are specialists within the digital space and those that are specialists within the physical space, known as extroverts, I guess, sometimes. Ultimately, that's been the divide and conquer approach, really, is just that let people do what they're best at. And I think it's my role as the CEO to determine that and to kind of identify who's best at what and what training is required. And just really, we spoke about priorities earlier. When one is then chosen, really full steam ahead and be intentional with how you then execute that.
And are there any new features, product extensions, or adjacent moves that you're making that you're most excited about right now?
I mean, you catch me at a time that is definitely the biggest jump. I've been joking recently that I'm going to add a 0 to my prospective, percentage increase, where we essentially can handle groups now. So our business has been entirely focused on kind of one-to-one relationships, one business card, one individual. And we now have unlocked kind of the system powered by Omnia that allows us to have groups. In other words, multiple physical things with multiple digital profiles. And that really does open up an entire use case, an entire industry, various industries for that matter. The two we are focusing on specifically is in the event space and in the hospitality space, especially Cape Town, Q4. It's the place to be in Africa, as we all know.
Amazing. So help us understand, who are your customer? What does your ideal customer profile look like?
It's unfortunately the most difficult conversation in my business. I've been going to marketing masterminds recently to try and identify this, but ultimately we segment our guys into three main segments. We have what we call the executive individual, the kind of ego-driven person, where that tends to be the stainless steel card, really trying to just be confident and present this kind of higher order self, if you will. Then we've got the second tier, which we call the internal communicators, and that's kind of used within businesses to be able to connect more than 150 people. As they say, you start breaking down connection, we kind of connect them on that side. And then we've got what we call the soldiers, which are the guys that go out there and fundamentally use the use case of transferring information. And within those three buckets, the age and demographic and reasons for purchasing it in terms of exactly within the industry tend to kind of change ever so slightly. But ultimately, ego, internal, soldiers, and I kind of split it into those segments. But psychographically and demographically, I haven't hit the nail on the head yet, and we continue to try and improve on that.
Got you. And how are you currently acquiring these new users, and which channels have you used that have surprised you?
As I said, there's the B2B face-to-face, acquiring people along that vertical. Then there is the e-commerce, as being said as well. But also we have recently launched in the States now, fully active and fully going. And from that perspective, we're taking the kind of freemium model, which is the free profile, and then try and upgrade into pro and paying users going forward. And that's kind of a new vertical we're testing, which is the kind of free approach to things. So again, going back to kind of the earlier point of trying to, my vision for the next 3 years is to hit the so-called critical mass, if that's even possible, but to just really front load us with users and also feedback. Obviously, we are only 2 years old, so our tech can only be that good fundamentally, and I understand that things take time. So yeah, just to punchline your point is to say face-to-face e-commerce and this freemium model is now a most recent. And then actually one more now that I realize it is partnerships. I always say I don't like to close, I like to collaborate. And I feel like many hands make light work, and there's go fast, go alone, go far, go together. There's all these insane wisdoms that life has taught us across many years in terms of teamwork really does make the dream work. That's 3 flippant slogans now. But really focusing on that and developing these partnerships has been extremely fruitful for me, firstly from a personal level, and secondly, to be honest, just from a bank account level. Partnerships have been the best thing for me in this business.
And if we drill into partnerships in a little bit more detail, how do you structure a partnership agreement?
I was hoping you could tell me, to be dead honest with you.
Well, what types of partnerships are you looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, again, the nature of a startup is that the partnerships are very ad hoc and very sometimes unexpected. And what tends to happen is that you kind of just find another person or company in life that does a particular thing for a particular reason, and it just fits to this priority list that we spoke of earlier, and so in that being said, the partnership tends to be along the commission side of the world, but I have also done partnerships where kind of we trade skills. So I've got a content studio as an example, and I'll film a couple things for them, and they might code out a little piece for me, or they reach out to customers, but I, design something small for their business in terms of an application or something like that. So yeah, time-based, commission-based, and outside of that, there is, I guess, growth-based partnerships where I'm yet to hit my long-term partner as of yet. I don't have a kind of proper strategic partner yet.
Interesting. And so you are sharing skills, and you're hoping for a partner to come on board to meet X metric where you feel you and the team don't have the capacity to handle that. Would that be a fair reflection of it?
Yes, I think that is one particular partnership as a use case we are using as we speak. Whether that's a model that is sustainable and healthy for the business, I'm not so sure. But there is a particular group that fills a need that we don't fill, and we are good at a particular need that they don't fill on their side. And that trade-off has actually been quite fruitful in general. But I don't know if long-term that's what I'd want to do necessarily, because then we just become a service industry in that particular skill, if you know what I mean. But we are a product-based company, so it wouldn't necessarily make long-term sense.
That makes sense. Okay. So if we turn our attention internally at Tapped, are there any foundational systems that you've put in place that have been game changers for you?
I might butcher this, but Uncle Warren, Mr. Warren Buffett, says that there's 3 main things in a person. It was hard work, enthusiasm, and integrity. And if they don't have the third one, the first 2 are pretty useless. And although it's so cliched, I think it is, and I believe in cliches because there's a reason they exist, is I say love conquers all. It's one of my main slogans for Omnia. And ultimately, internally, if we're not operating in love, then what are we doing? And I mean that extremely to my core, and I do not say that lightly. It is that, we can get mad, we can get upset, we can do those types of things. But ultimately, if love is at the forefront, the culture remains strong, and I think dedication and hard work also, just remains there. We all know what we would do for our, sisters, wives, mothers, brothers, etc. And kind of having a similar sense to the people you work with and the project you are working on has tended to yield good results in that sense. Outside of that, more operationally, more from an engineering standpoint, is I read a book called 4DX, which was the 4 disciplines of execution, and basically just having a kind of, not like a leaderboard or a tally board, but just kind of I publicly display the milestones that are hit at quite frequent basis in terms of the whole team. I'll tell the marketing team that the devs have just hit this, and the market and the dev team that they've just hit that. And I think just kind of inspiring with moving parts and people not wanting to be left behind has been a good addition as well.
Yeah, and I'd imagine providing that visibility to the entirety of the team helps them understand the progress towards the vision that you're working towards.
100%. Although in a startup perspective, once again, that vision is not always that clear. But I think movement, if you want six-pack, consistency is going to beat some silver bullet as well. So I think from that perspective, it is more just, look, guys, we are still moving. And again, inspired by Rory Sutherland when he says, in order to get anywhere, you must, F around and find out. We've got really good at messing about and finding out. We are not scared to do the thing. And then if it didn't work, it didn't work. But movement is better than no movement. And that's the focus. It's not so much strategic and vision as much as I would love it to be honest.
Got you. So the KPIs dashboard provides some level of visibility across the team. Are there any other internal processes from a tech and operation workflow perspective that are game changers or making a upside difference to the team?
I'm actually very excited to share this one. It just popped into my mind right now, and honestly, if this is the very bit that we clip, honestly, it'll be good for people. But when building a tech product, you build with the test cases in mind, where you ask what the business requirements are from the customer, and you write out those features or sets that are important for that, and then you develop your test cases to say, what are the test cases to make this be true? And then when you get into your dev cycle, you are then able to make sure fundamentally you hit those business requirements because you have tested them at the end. So that process that we've got, we use Huli, which is a free online software that I believe is very good. It's similar to Jira in terms of a ticketing system. And simply we test as we go. We test and repeat and test and repeat. And that process and system has 10x our ability to execute on, we spoke about vision, but the vision for the tech product has been hit better because we have used a test-first focused dev approach.
In building a hardware and software hybrid product, what cross-team coordination has been most tricky, and how have you managed to align it? Is it through a tool like Huli?
Luckily, our hardware isn't that complicated. Sorry for quoting so many people, but Steve Jobs says that if you want to build good software, you need to be in the hardware game as well. And we don't have that much cross-pollination yet. My vision is massively to kind of create we have the one card project, the one card to rule them all, that I'm sure we can discuss deeper another time, but is that at the end of the day, we have a QR code and a chip, and we put our program on this QR code or chip for right now, but ultimately we don't have that much cross-pollination. As I said, the engineer in me can handle the physical as of today, but I would love an R&D department. It is really one of my big dreams for this company, is to get a full research and development department that is entirely focused at making the best hardware and software solution coming together possible within our space.
And if we circle back to your client experience, given the option of a purely digital contact tool, how do you persuade prospects to buy a physical smart card rather?
Humans are seemingly, from my experience, are very Starling-like as people, where a physical object tends to have some inherent value to it. And sometimes the software is not even the cell, really. It's just the fact that there is a physical object, and it's stainless steel, and it's hard, and it makes some sound, and people just feel the shiny object and go, well, I think I want one of those, and kind of deal with the software afterwards. And I think that we are uniquely positioned within that we have this hybrid where Omnia is, I believe, an insanely high quality tech product that has taken 2 years to build, coupled with many iterations of the physical item, that the team is the solution, or the combination is the solution. And I've seen that even those that have just bought digital end up buying physical going forward, which almost is counter where the world seems to be going. But there is still this, as I said, stalling nature of people where they do love physical objects. And just a quick anecdote while we're here, that they did a study in a university in America where a lecturer came in and he gave mugs, or he said anyone who would like a mug could come grab a mug, a university logoed mug, and about 60% of the class went to go grab a mug. At the end of the lecture, he asked the class how much, and everyone who got a mug and didn't get a mug, how much they were willing to sell the mug back to the university for. Those who took a mug said on average $7, and those who didn't said on average $3.50. And the point just there is, it's interesting how both are obviously the same value, but yet those with the physical, tangible object at hand put literally double its value onto it. So conclusion is that although it seems that it's a software product, the hardware really gives it an extra boost in a sense within the market space.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back to my early days in the sales world. I used to sell wine, and often, to try and get the sale across the line, you would, get the restaurant owner or the sommelier to naturally taste the wine, but to have them hold the bottle was the first step in getting them to want to taste it. So as you say, having something physical in your hands suddenly provides tangible value.
100%. And very interestingly so, because again, from an engineer perspective, and reasonably young at this point, I wouldn't necessarily think about the card being so important, but it has seemed that it certainly is.
Now, you mentioned your 3 ideal customer profiles, and maybe they're not clearly defined just yet, but which of those do you find most skeptical, and how do you educate or onboard them effectively?
I think it's an age-old question, and maybe that type of person is the one that then is not your target market, ironically. The one that is difficult to get over the line. I think it's for me at this point, it's the public space. The public sector are very ego-driven people within the South African context, and it is what it is. And within that space, we get into good conversations, but there's just a lot of red tape to get around. And the red tape within the public sector has been something that I didn't expect to be as red as the color is. And I've got my certifications and things in order, but the procurement process and the budgeting and things really aren't as straightforward as maybe within the private sector. And although the public has possibilities for maybe greater reach, just because they're the biggest employer in our country, and obviously business cards, on average could go to almost every person, but the red tape behind that has been very challenging to try and get around, and in honesty, I'm yet to truly get around it or get through it, should I say properly.
Yeah, I mean, I think the public sector is a massive beast, so I'll keep a close eye on your progress into that sector. If we turn again our attention internally within Tapped, how are you using data internally? You've mentioned your KPI dashboard, but sort of user analytics, product usage, funnel metrics. Are you monitoring all of that?
I would not be an engineer if I wasn't. Specifically, as I'm sure you know as well, within the digital marketing space, there's about 1 million nodes you could track. Obviously, trying to find out which the most important one is. Fundamentally, I've come to learn that quite obviously, conversion is your number one metric, at least that I think. And through our funnel itself, from top of funnel to bottom of funnel, we have various metrics in terms of cost to your CAC ratio, cost to acquire a customer, and things like that, which is kind of old school business knowledge in a sense. It's nothing fancy, but it's doing the simple things over a long enough period of time tend to go well. And so absolutely, are we tracking metrics? Is it as clean as I hope it should be? Probably not. And they do vary more than I would have wanted it to. We could run an ad this week and we get a certain metric, and we run an ad the next week and it's a completely different metric, and it's almost like difficult to compare them even because like there's no one clear obvious thing of what the difference is. And I think maybe that just speaks to the nature of possibly humans in general, which is that we are somewhat unpredictable because we have our many different facets of IQ and EQ and bias and everything in between.
So you mentioned conversion and CAC. Are those your guiding light metrics, or are there additional metrics internally that you're tracking as well?
The other metric is customer service, and it's our lead time. We have struggled in the past getting our customized products into our customers' hands at a reasonable amount of time in bluntness, and focusing on decreasing that lead time has been a massive metric that I've been really keeping my eye on as much as I possibly can. And that and the final other metric, now that I think about it, is also the length of, and this seems like kind of a funny one, but the length in which it's taken for the customer to receive the product and then have signed up their profile. And there's also an interesting thing. It's like I don't know necessarily, but like you buy running shoes, until when is your first run? And it's also interesting that people tend to, like starlings, they buy something, but they might not then get into using it. And because for me, the networking tool is the distribution, which is the critical mass, it is crucially important to me that the user uses my product, where it might not be the case for if you sell firewood, as an example. If they make a braai or not, it's neither here nor there. But for me, tracking how long it's taken from delivery to a live customer happy with their profile has also been a very important next step, especially now as we begin to scale. It's almost visceral when you have the clients starting to use your product, like the senses are completely different from when you just start having an idea and hope they're going to use it,
And how far are you off your consumption goal? Like how far are you off the time it takes a user to purchase and use your product?
There's a bit of a how long is a piece of string, because we aim to make it 5 minutes that a user must be able to receive a card and sign up. That's been our goal since day one, was in 5 minutes you could be entirely set up digitally. But we track effectively your first external tap. So should you have not tapped on your own phone, someone else's phone. And I don't have an answer well enough for you to tell you how far or close we are to our desired target. This as a metric has only really recently become apparent, let's say within the last month. So its end goal is not that clear yet.
And is there any AI or automation on your roadmap? Things like smart suggestions and profiles, link optimization, predictive analytics?
Without a doubt, you cannot be in 2025 as a tech person and not be using the word AI at least. And certainly within this space, again, going back to the big launch or the big growth that we're having now from a software standpoint, is that with our multiple physical objects and multiple digital things, there are what I count as 22 interactions that any two given things, i.e. be it person, business, object, place, or event, which is roughly how we've defined the different use cases for it, 22 different ways that these things could interact with one another, whether it be invite, pay, send, message, etc. And essentially there is a bit of AI that is able to assist within these interactions that we're certainly embedding kind of as we speak.
And what's your approach to balancing these smart features versus not overcomplicating the product?
It is the age-old question between product builders and business requirements. And the truth of the matter is, I love building cool things. At the end of this day, as a kid growing up and stuff, I was that guy that liked to tinker with things. And I think I actually made that mistake in the first year of this business, trying to focus on what I think is cool and didn't do enough research and trying to figure out what other people actually want. So finding that balance has been with my two A players in my marketing side and my product side, where technically I put them into the room with boxing gloves on and say, come guys, what are we going to do next, And that's kind of been by far actually, of this whole interview, the best thing I've done for this product's kind of roadmap and iterative improvement has been this metaphorical boxing match where business and product get together often and say what really is necessary and not.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd pay money to see that fight.
Yeah, geez, it's yeah, and it's always such a fun meeting, you know. And maybe just quickly while we're here, is just that, and this clip could be just building a business really needs to be all about fun. Again, as cliched as that can be, fun is what makes it worth it. There is the tough times and the tough, you know, moments in time, and the trying to make salaries and things. But ultimately, when you're trying to just play the game of life, where you're like, well, what do you want to build and who do you want to build it for? It does have a tendency to be, you know, joyous, for lack of a better word. And yeah, really also focusing on that has been extremely fruitful as a CEO for my own mental space. That is, you know, I get to do this. I don't have to do this. And that's been amazing for me.
Yeah, that's a great mindset. And Jamie, if we look at Tapped holistically, what is working well at the moment within the company?
Once again, I have to go back to my current core, which is e-commerce. Filming a video, making a good hook, 15 seconds and a call to action, throwing it into meta ads, doing the right target market, building a good landing page on Shopify, a well-orchestrated supply chain, and fundamentally a good product that lands in the customer's hands has been the best, you know, time to money relationship, and even joy, to be honest, relationship in the business at the moment is good old-fashioned e-commerce.
And if you had a blank check and you could fix one internal pain point within Tapped, what would it be and why?
To be honest with you, I'm currently looking to raise checks to be able to solve this very problem. And I truly believe it's that it really is the scale to volume, to put a higher volume output within this e-commerce space. It really is, for better or worse. They say in America, for $50 million, you could become a celebrity. And that's a crazy thing to think about, because back in the, like, let's say 20 years ago, in order to be famous, you needed to fundamentally be really good at something, or, you know, to be exceptional at a certain situation. However, in today's world, you can literally buy fame. And in that space, that there is this, should you get your conversion, that's the other metric we track, ROAS, your return on ad spend. If you get that more than 1.0, effectively, you're always making money. So ultimately, if you can just improve that, it becomes I can never say infinite money glitch, but you know what I mean? It's like if you're getting a 1.8x return on your ad spend, you just might as well pump R1 billion into it. Like, it really is that simple. So yeah, for me, it's scaling into my e-commerce, better high quality videos at a higher volume, and we could A/B test more often, because due to limited funds and resources as a startup is, the cadence at which we could see what we're doing right and wrong is still at a slow time horizon that I'm not that fond of at this point.
And when you look at the competitive landscape, how do you position Tap to defend its space?
So going back to what I said earlier, it is becoming a one of zero, that I believe we can provide an ecosystem of tools, and not really just this one-line digital business card that tends to be where our competitors sit. And we can compete, and I think compete well within that specific space. But then I do think that our kind of quote or invoice has a couple more lines that I think provide a different sense of value to our customer that makes us possibly a one-stop shop for a couple of different reasons.
And are there any macro trends that you believe will most reshape how people connect in the next 5 years? I mean, things like identity, privacy, contactless, network graphs.
According to ChatGPT, the digital business card market is set to, more than triple over the next 10 years. How true is that? I don't really know. But what I can say from a macro perspective is that technology isn't going away, and that it seems as if technology has made people's lives a bit manic, in a sense, where everyone's a meeting behind, a presentation behind, an email behind, and Omnia really is all about making it simple. And I see that the macro trend is that more tools and more things are going to be coming out, and Omnia really has the vision of being the simplification of everything. I could talk about the GitHub, but for life. For your listeners who know what that means will understand exactly what that means. And essentially it's just making life a bit more simple. I'm keen for a parent to go watch the soccer game at 3 p.m. again. And I think if you can quickly send that email, quickly send that pitch deck, it maybe leaves a bit more room for that. I think peace of mind over everything else. And I think from a macro perspective, we aren't looking too good as a society from a peace of mind standpoint. And I plan to be a cog in that wheel.
Well, I mean, that segues quite nice into my next question around, what kind of future do you want to help build and how people share their identity or their professional presence, beyond Tap's immediate roadmap?
Yeah, Omnia, make it simple is the slogan. And as I was saying, everything has got this, everyone is one email behind, one message behind, one something behind. And the digital landscape for specifically even the slightly older generation and beyond is that it is almost overwhelming, and I mean, I can even just speak from my mom's perspective. She's in the UK and she works for the NHS there on that side. And the amount of technology that she has to kind of deal with, but she's got 27 years in nuclear medicine. And she says that she physically sees less patients because of the technical side, which goes completely against the actual function of what her job is, And I think if I could play a part in being the more simplification from a tech perspective and allow you to do your job, whatever that may be, a bit better would definitely be the ultimate goal for me. And I think that I am well on my way to be able to provide that solution. Whether I can get it into the critical mass and into the many people's hands and actually be valuable, time is yet to tell. But I think as a tech product, what we have as we speak, I think actually does solve that problem quite nicely.
Amazing, Jamie. Well, if our listeners and viewers want to connect with you, where's the best place for them to do that?
Ultimately is to go to tappd.co.za, and on there's a contact us there, and you can contact my support team and as well as send us a mail possibly if that interests you guys.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us on the Aegance Offscript Podcast. It's been a fascinating conversation, diving a little bit deeper into the inner workings of Tapt and hearing about your growth aspirations. I wish you all the best, and we'll certainly keep a close eye on your trajectory.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. Thank you for your time. This has been quite exciting for me as well. It's my first online podcast like this, so definitely got another rep under the belt, which is lovely.
Thanks, Jamie.